What is up, everybody? We are back for episode 2 of the podcast. Um, for starters, thank you guys again for all the support. Put out episode 1, got a lot of good feedback from everybody. I appreciate your feedback, and please keep giving me that feedback all the time too. What you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, and whatnot. Currently filming the podcast right now, so that should be up on YouTube as well. Hopefully, we can have that up by the end of the day. We'll see. Also, I know this podcast is a little bit late. I was hoping to get it out every week. Last week was the first week of workouts that I had for our high school guys and guys in the area. So it's kind of a crazy week, just getting used to the schedule. But hopefully we can get things going here consistently, putting on the podcast. So today's topic is one that is it's a very difficult one, I think, and it's one that everyone can almost relate to. And so, shout out to Steve Christensen, my teammate, great guy, great teammate. He gave me this idea, and it's talking about confidence. And so, there's two sides of it. One from like my trainer aspect, and one from like my playing experience too. And so a lot of the times when I'm working kids out or I'm working with teams, a lot of their parents or the coaches will always come up and, hey, this player, that he or she is just not confident. And so they always tell me, you need to work on their confidence, just get them confident again. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you can't, it's not, confidence is something that you can't, like, just say. That's people like, just be confident in your shot. Like, I really think that's like something that's really difficult it's something that you can't just say like that. You can't just say be confident and therefore someone will be confident. It's something that you actively have to work towards and work at in order to regain that confidence, and it's something that takes time. It's not a quick fix. I mean, there's certainly some things you can do that are probably quick fixes, but this is something that takes some time typically. Again, I'm going to give you guys some advice, some things that I think that will help. But there's probably so many people out there that have different things that work for them that I've never used. And they'll probably be like, hey, like, what about this? And I'll be like, oh, of course, that sounds like a great idea. So this is just advice that I have, things that I've gone through, things I've learned from. I'm sure a lot of you guys have some really good, cool ideas of how to get your confidence back. So if you do, please, once the podcast is over, you've listened to everything I talked about, reach out to me. Love to hear what works for you, so I can share with others. So, to start, and I think this is where you guys start, is like, where and why do slumps or lack of confidence occur? And so I think, like, when I was thinking about this one, there's certainly things that are like basketball related and non-basketball related. And so I think that's one of the common themes, I think, is like parents or coaches, they just think everything's on the court, and so that's all kids are thinking about. But if it's a young kid or it's a kid in college, like, there's so much stuff going on outside of basketball that can affect you in basketball that they just tend to forget about this stuff. And it happens all the time. It's not just basketball, it could be school. Teachers talk about it all the time. There's like, well, they always talk about like, hey, like, what else is going on outside of school? Is this affecting you in school? Same thing with basketball. Like, what's going on outside of basketball? Is that affecting you inside of basketball as well? And so that's something that you kind of need to reflect on a little bit, and kind of figure out, is it inside or outside of basketball? Another one of the big things, I think, from like a training aspect and things that I've gone through that have hurt my confidence, not necessarily hurt it, but just like caused me to kind of get it shaken up a little bit possibly, was the transition from summer workouts or fall workouts into the season. And what I mean by that is like, so typically when you're working out and doing your own thing, or maybe you have like a partner you go with or a friend that you go with, and you kind of get in that routine of doing things your way. But then when the season comes around, now it's up to the coach. He's creating practice plans. He's creating workouts that you guys are doing. And it's going to be different, and it's going to be tailored different to what you're used to and what you're used to doing in your workouts. And so a lot of the times it's like the first, I don't know, probably like month on average of practice is like all team orientated stuff. And so like during the summer, guys are getting up a certain amount of shots. They're playing pickup a certain amount of days. They're getting comfortable in that rhythm and that routine. But when practice comes along, it's like the first like 2-3 weeks are probably like two and a half, 3 hour practices. A lot of standing around. You get tired of just going through those, those fundamental practice routine things you do at the beginning of the season. And by the time practice is over, maybe you've only gotten up like 50 shots of the whole practice, maybe 50 shots if you're lucky in the beginning of the season. And probably half those shots were just like layups and free throws when you got a little break or going through drills. And so that's something that really, I think, throws players off, is because, like I said, you get in that routine, you get comfortable, and then practice comes along and you're thrown off in your routine. So that can be something that's really tough to deal with, just making sure you're getting like shots at before and shots after, and like just trying to get back, not necessarily get back to a routine you have, but get a routine that you're comfortable with for the rest of the season. Another thing that I think can affect confidence is like your mentality and your mindset going into games, going into practices, and then on like the changes that can happen with your mentality. And so what I mean by that is like a lot of times, like I'll know some like for me personally, I'm not going to talk about anybody else just because I don't necessarily know all the time what's going through their head. So I'm just going to give you some examples from myself. So one of those examples is like, again, I'm shooting in the summer, I'm shooting in the fall. I shoot it really well in workouts, okay? It's really easy to shoot it well in workouts. It's easy to shoot it well playing pickup when you don't have like the most intense defense and someone's not like face guarding you or like really trailing you on screens and stuff like that. And so I shoot it really well in those workouts and those pickup games. And then when it comes to the season, okay, now people are playing in gaps. They're closing out really hard, and so I struggle shooting the basketball. Okay, so I struggled shooting for like the first 10 games of our season this year, and that was something that was tough for me because again, I was shooting it really well in the summer, I was shooting it well in the fall, I was shooting it good in our pickup games, and so I was going into the season thinking, hey, like this is the year where I can finally, get my percentage up higher, shooting from three. And so when that didn't happen, now I'm like, from a personal perspective, I was like, I know I can shoot better, but I'm just not right now. From a coach's perspective, they're like, hey, you're quick, you can get to the basket, let's get to the basket first. So I came into the season having a shooter's first mentality. But my coaches, after I was missing shots, they're like, hey, have a drive first mentality. So that really messed me up personally because now I was transitioning from like, hey, I was thinking shot first, now I'm thinking drive first. And so now when I was trying to transition back into that shooting first mentality, it was tough because I was really hesitant. I was really hesitant to catch and shoot because I was used to just catch and drive. And that was working for me too. Like I'm a quick player. And so it's easy for me to get to the rim, especially in non-conference. We're not playing as tough of teams. So it was just easy. I could get by. But now once conference starts, okay, conference was tough for me at the first couple games. First like 3 or 4 games probably shooting it. Just because now teams are like, hey, he's not shooting the ball well. Take away his drives. Close out short. Okay, so now I'm catching it. Guys are closing out short. I'm not shooting it, but they're taking away my drive, so now I have nothing. So one of the tough things is making sure that even though there are some times where you should like maybe try to get to the rim first to get your rhythm going or get some easy baskets, to make sure that like in the back of your head you just have to have that mentality that like, hey, I can catch and shoot at any point. And so I've already touched on a little bit about how do you fix to like your confidence levels. How do you fix, getting out of that slump and whatnot? How do you work towards that? And again, it is something you actively have to do, because if you don't actively do it, it's just going to be something that kind of it carries on for the whole season. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's something that's certainly easier said than done. And I can sit here and again, like what I say worked for me for the most part, but it might not work for you. So if you guys have ideas, please reach out to me. The more ideas you share with me, the more ideas I can share with other people, and they can maybe help their games too. The first thing that I'm going to talk about that kind of relates to the first thing I talked about for how slumps and whatnot occur is mental preparation. Okay. And so what I mean by that, and a couple examples that could be, one is like I use like the meditation apps. I thought those are pretty helpful for me. My mind, my mind like always races about a million things, and so using like the app I use is called Headspace. It is free for like a certain amount of trials or a certain amount of times you use it. I know that. And so what it did for me is it just kind of allowed me to like slow down for a little bit. Like kind of, I would always have like, again, like we're human beings. We always think about things that we probably shouldn't be thinking about. Like and for example, like in a game, I'm on the wing. I'm already thinking like, hey, what can I make this shot? You know, all that. Like my mind's racing. So being able to meditate kind of allows you to slow down a little bit and just keep a relaxed and calm mindset going through things when things are chaotic. Another thing for like mental preparation that was like, this is probably the biggest one for me, was watching film. Okay, and so what I mean by that is like if I'm going through a tough shooting game, or if I say I have a tough shooting game, I don't shoot well, or I just don't play well in general. What I would do is I would go and watch all my makes from like the recent games. I would watch it probably like 3 or 4 games back. I would just watch all my makes. And so what that did for me is like it teaches my brain, and it like gets ingrained in my brain that like, hey, like look at all the good things that I do. All the good things, none of the bad things. Okay, I'm fully aware that like you can learn from the bad things and all that. But again, our brains are so powerful that it's almost like you're just trying to like trick yourself into having that like false confidence. Again, I say false confidence, but it's just like you're trying to just gain that confidence back. But you're just like tricking your brain and like thinking like, hey, look at all these good things I did. Okay, and you're just slowly. What I would do is I would watch it before practice, and I would typically watch it like at night before. So twice a day. Not like I'd sit there for like an hour. I would probably sit there for like 10 minutes before practice, watch it, and then I'd be done. And then maybe before I went to bed, boom, I'm watching it again for 10 minutes. And I'd probably do that, I mean, depending on how the results were. Typically, I'd probably do that for like a week. And like, even after the first time I watched it, I would notice the difference in practice. And then if I'd watch it 3 or 4 times, I'd really notice the difference starting to happen in games. And so basically you do that. I mean, honestly, you could probably do it all season. I would just typically do it when I was in slumps and stuff, and I was like lacking my confidence. But those are just 2 simple ways that are free to kind of mentally prepare yourself and get yourself back to that high confidence level. Another thing that's probably going to be like harder. Not want to say harder, but it's like not as inviting to do as a younger kid, as a college kid, just because it's probably not like the coolest thing to do, or like I don't know. You just kind of feel weird about it when you do it, or when you think about doing it. And I think it helps. It really does. It's just like talking with someone. It's almost just like a therapy session. You're just getting everything off your chest. Again, as human beings, we tend to bottle stuff up inside. But if you just like talk through things with a friend. So I wrote down some examples. Like I said, like you can talk with your coach. Doesn't have to be your head coach. It could be your assistant coach that you get you really get along with. It could be like a student manager. It could be a teammate. It could just be a friend, or it could be a family member. And so I think a couple things that this is really beneficial is because 1, like I said, you get everything off your chest, and 2, like you're always going to get a positive response out of this. like no matter what you say, you can say like oh my shot's terrible, and like whether or not that's true, like the person that you tell it to, like again, we're all human beings, so we all want to like help that person out. So we always just say like, oh no, it's not that bad. And so by doing this again, you're like kind of tricking yourself, um, tricking your brain because someone else is telling you this too. So they're kind of like reassuring and reaffirming all those thoughts that you have in your head, all those positive things now that you can have going on. And then the last thing I have, and again, this is one of the important. I don't know if there's one that's more important than the other. It's kind of again, and maybe one of these works for you, maybe all three of them works for you. For me, I did all three of these things at like the same day or the same time. When I would have I would lack confidence basically. I would try to do all these three things in a day. And the last one is get reps on reps on reps. Okay. So if you're missing, maybe you're struggling with your pull-up jump shot, maybe you're struggling with a floater, maybe you're struggling coming off a quick screen and you're catch and shoot. Maybe that's tough for you. Get in the gym and practice. That's like, it's just something that, again, our brains are powerful. So if you see the ball go through the net like 100 times a day, 150, 200 times a day, eventually that just like gets your brain going back into thinking those positive things when you see the ball go through the net. It doesn't have to be just shooting. It can be dribbling. Like, say like you just feel like, oh, my handle feels a little loose today, and like maybe you turned it over a couple times in the last game or whatnot. Just go in like what I would do I would work out on game days, just because like that was something that worked for me. I would go in, I would do like a 2-ball workout, I would go to like switch to 1 ball, and I would just like handle it for like 15 minutes. It was intense. Like I would not be in the gym for long. I would probably do handles for like 15 minutes and then shoot for 15 minutes. And that was something that worked for me on game day. And it'd be intense. Like it was just like a summer workout. Like I was going hard, but it was only for like a half hour. So when you're doing all these things, like I don't think you want to go long with whatever you're doing. The longer you go, the more you can kind of like get back to having those bad thoughts, just because your mind will wander too as time goes on. So whatever you're doing, I would try to just like keep it as simple as you can with doing what's necessary. Again, so if it's mental preparation, boom, you're doing that for 10 to 15 minutes, then you're done. If you're talking with a coach, it could be before practice, it could be after practice, it could be at a water break. Boom, 5 minutes right there, quick, you're done. Reps on reps on reps, like I talked about getting in the gym, okay? Maybe it's a half hour, you're done, okay? It's the minimum amount of time of what you need to get it done, okay? So those are some 3 things that I think you can do to fix confidence. They may work for you, they may not work for you. They worked for me, okay? So I would love to hear everything that you guys had that worked for you. Maybe even if maybe some of this works for you, I'd love to hear, hey, like just reaffirming that this stuff might work for other people as well. It'd be really cool to hear. So yeah, that is all I have for this podcast. Again, I touched on some stuff. There's not enough time to probably touch on everything. It'd be days. But just a quick, short little podcast talking about stuff that's worked for me. And hopefully some things that can maybe work for you. So feel free to, again, reach out to me. And thank you for listening.